Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the case of Danelo Cavalcante. Danelo Cavalcante is currently a wanted fugitive. In 2021, he went to prison for the murder of his girlfriend. 12 days ago, he escaped, and he is currently on the run. What we're going to be looking at today are several pictures and videos, and I'm going to tell you what I can identify in his body language. Additionally, we're going to talk about what he is likely to do next. Couple of things before we get started. I do want to remind you that this is not a formal psychological evaluation. These are just my opinions based on publicly available information. I also want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. So what we're going to watch first is his escape. I want to see if there's anything that it tells us about his body language before we look at some of the pictures that have been taken. Now, one thing you'll notice, if you look at his left arm, it's sitting very still. His right arm is moving a bit more normally. Go back and watch that again, and I'll explain the significance. You'll notice that his left arm is very still. Now, I want you to keep in mind, from a survival perspective, we freeze, we flee, and then we fight. So that freeze part, we try to hide ourselves. We try to look smaller. So when we do things that are suspicious, sometimes we move less. Sometimes we hold our arms still. Sometimes we try to hide one. So this shows he had some awareness of that. He tried to swing his right arm normally, and his left arm was held very still. Let's keep going. So what you'll notice is you looked around very quickly and acted. Now, I know that may seem obvious, but not everybody can do that. Not everybody is that quick to act. Some people are going to be a lot more cautious. But the fact that he just looked around, acted, that tells us a lot about how he is. He is somebody that is capable of being quite impulsive. All right, now we're going to go back and watch this all one last time, and then we're going to move on to some pictures. But as you can see, try not to see suspicious, takes a very quick look around, and then goes directly into action. And this tells you a lot about what he's going to be like. So here's a picture that was caught of him after he had escaped. Now, we're not going to learn as much from this picture as we will from the next ones, but this picture obviously shows that he's not hiding in bushes, he's not constantly hiding in brush, that at night he's willing to walk around, that he is willing to risk being seen. He's not doing anything right here that makes it seem like he's trying to hide. And that is an important fact. Everybody's a little bit different, so this does help clue us in into how he will continue to behave. Same with this picture. When he's under the cover of night, he seems pretty comfortable walking around. Doesn't seem too concerned about being spotted. We're going to look at a couple of pictures from this camera, but if you look at this, this is more recent. Now, a couple of things to notice. He's got his hands in his pockets. Once again, we do that when we want to hide. Obviously, he's got his hood up, his hat on. These are things that we do to try to hide our identity, but they do make us more suspicious. Walking around at night with your hands in your pockets does not, in fact, make you less visible. It makes you more visible. But it goes to show that when he's going out, he's not trying to blend in. He is trying to hide while he is out. Because obviously, if this is at somebody's house, he could be seen. But to give you some of his mindset, like I said, keeping his hands in his pockets, trying to stay as obscured as humanly possible, even though it looks like he shaved, he changed the way that he looks. This does show that he has an awareness of that. But the wrong kind of awareness, because oftentimes trying to look less suspicious makes us look more suspicious. So you'll notice based on his face, he looks okay right here. It looks like he might almost even have a slight smile on his face. He looks pretty healthy. From what I've read, assuming that reports are correct, this is not his first escape. Apparently something similar happened in Brazil, and he hung out in the jungles of Brazil. Having gone and done something similar to this before is going to help him a lot to feel less anxious, less stressed, less exhausted. So he is part of the reason that he's probably able to avoid detection for so long, as he may feel less desperate than some people in a similar situation would, because this cannot be an easy situation to tolerate. But if you've been through it before, that certainly helps. Let's look at another picture from this same night. Now, if you look at the picture on the right, I would guess that it was a sound or that he was trying to discern something, because that is a real look of concentration on his face right there. If you look at the eyebrow and the way that his eyes are positioned and the way that his head is down, his chin is down a little bit, that's something that we do when we try to protect ourselves. Like if you think about boxing, if you get punched in the chin, you're going to get knocked out. So oftentimes when we detect a threat, or we think we do, sometimes we move our head down a bit. And that's the way he's looking right there. So even if he knows he's on camera right now, he definitely has a very strong and heightened awareness of his surroundings, which is very important to the next part we're going to talk about in just a minute, about what might come next. So if you look at the picture on the left, his face doesn't show a lot of stress in that picture. It looks like he's able to have moments of calm, where even though he's out in the open, even though he's under light, even though he's got his hand out of his pocket, he is still able to feel calm in this moment. There's no stress around the eyes. His brow isn't furrowed. His face has generally an expression of someone who is able to feel okay in that moment. There's certain sets of behaviors we typically see from fugitives. And so what we're going to talk about today are those behaviors as well as what might come next. One is resource scavenging. Obviously, he's been doing this already. The goal is to get enough resources to continue to survive until he can come up with a coherent plan. And at this point, he's broken into cars to steal food, from my understanding, and he will continue to do things like this. So I think that we're going to see him come into populated areas and then hide back in the woods. That strategy seems to be working so far, and I suspect it will continue. Increased desperation, and this is one I want you to take very seriously. As he continues to get more desperate, he may engage in more high-risk behaviors. He may get more confrontational if he feels like he's being cornered. So as he gets more desperate, his behaviors are going to only get worse. I hate to say that, but I really think that that's true. Patterns of movement. Now, you've got to keep in mind, he's stayed relatively close to what's familiar to him so far, but there will be a point where he probably ventures out from that. He will probably try to escape that place. As he feels like they may be zeroing in on him, he may finally make a step to really try to get out of that area, which would obviously be the most dangerous thing that could happen. Contact with acquaintances. So he is reaching out to people that he's worked with. He is trying to get help right now. That's an important point. He is still at a place where he does need these resources. He doesn't feel entirely able to do this on his own. He is looking for help elsewhere, and that is always a risk for people that are fugitives, and that is oftentimes a way that they get caught. There is a psychological toll, so I want you to keep in mind that he could potentially become a lot more volatile, because if he's reaching out to acquaintances, that does speak to the fact that he's not trying to do this all on his own. He does want some help, and that means that there is a psychological toll being taken. And endgame scenarios, where this all ends. Based on what we've seen from him so far, I'm concerned that we could end up with a very confrontational endgame scenario, somebody who is not interested in going peacefully. We're going to see if that's true. Hopefully he is to a point where he's exhausted and doesn't want to do that. But this also could be somebody who is absolutely and utterly not going to be willing to go back to prison. So I would imagine that his next steps, unfortunately, would probably be to try to escape from the area. He also is likely more volatile and more dangerous. Hopefully watching this has helped you get a better idea of what his body language says about him, as well as the different elements that factor in when you have a fugitive on the run. If you have any thoughts about this, please let me know in the comments below. Hopefully all of this will be resolved soon. I'll certainly be keeping an eye on this situation. And if you want to see more content just like this, please don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, thanks for watching.